Oh, Popeye, where art thou? You know, guys, I just made a whole video a few minutes ago about Popeye, and I forgot my main point, so let me front load it. 2025 is the year that Popeye, the character, goes into the public domain, right? So, there was a comic strip in the 1920s called Thimble Theater, and it ran for years and was a very popular strip. Back then, comic strips and cartoonists were huge celebrities, and comic strips were a big deal. I mean, we didn't have animated cartoons yet. We didn't have anything. That was like the most fun that you could have with cartoons back then. That changed, of course, but Popeye was one of the first cartoon superstars to break it through. He was really like the Fonzie, or maybe the Urkel, if you're a little bit younger than me, of his day, in that he was just a supporting character brought on to be part of an ensemble cast, and immediately became so popular with fans of the comics that his adventures started to take over the strip. And when it came time to do animated cartoons in the 1930s, Popeye was the character. Sure, they put Thimble Theater on those old black and white Fleischer Popeye cartoons, but really there was no other character outside of, you know, Olive Oyl and Wimpy that made the cut, right? Popeye was clearly the star. And what's not to love about a tough talking roughneck of a sailor, right? Quick to solve a problem with his fists. It's crazy when you think about it, but this character, created in the 1920s, over 100 years ago now, became a superstar from the cartoons in the 1930s, and that lasted all the way up through into my childhood, well into my childhood and beyond, right? Not just reboots, but playing those old Popeye cartoons, the black and white ones played on Saturday morning or afternoon TV for many, many years, as well as a lot of the color ones. I didn't realize until much more recently, like in the last couple of years, that several of the Popeye cartoons from that era that I remember, even some of the color ones, accidentally lapsed into the public domain. So there's a lot of Popeye cartoons that TV stations could just take and play pretty much for free, right? And kids would watch, right? They were still good cartoons. I might even put some up on this channel. I've done a little bit of public domain cartoon stuff on here before, and I think I might get back to that again. Maybe with some commentary, I don't know. Anyway, Popeye, right? By the time I was a kid, you know, Popeye, you knew Popeye was everywhere. There were, besides the chicken restaurant, there were, Popeye was just a major character. They tried to reboot him many times, modernize him a little bit, but it really was the classic cartoons that made him and made him stick as a character. Now, if you've watched a Popeye cartoon, you know the formula. Popeye loves olive oil. Popeye is going to start some kind of business or do something or just hang out with olive oil, and of course the evil Bluto is going to get in his way, and by the end, usually with violence, and by the end of the show, Popeye would end up taking some spinach and solving his problems with his fists, his mitts, his dukes, right? Popeye solved problems with violence while smoking tobacco from a pipe. Okay, obviously in this day and age, that kind of character would not fly. You couldn't create it, and as a children's character in this day and age, just would never fly. And the old cartoons are they're like a delicious, delightful orgy of violence, right? Lot of fighting, a lot of violence happening. Usually Popeye would get kind of beat up and humiliated in some way, find a way to get his spinach, and that was what was on for the climax of the cartoon, was giant sock fest with our man Popeye. Now, what happened? First of all, why haven't we seen Popeye on TV for so long? Well, you know the reason, right? They had a crusade against violence in kids' cartoons and children's entertainment. That used to be what kids' entertainment was. It was violent, right? If you grew up like I did, and by the way, 2025 will be my 50th year on this planet, my 50th orbit around the sun. And I grew up watching what made me laugh, right? And what was fun and funny to watch. And that was usually cartoon violence. To this day, if I give my kids a choice and I say, hey kids, do you want to watch Netflix and watch some cartoon animals that sort of like get along and solve a problem with friendship and cooperation? Or would you rather watch the ones where the animals try to kill each other with anvils and dynamite? A lot of the times they want the anvils and dynamite. Although I will admit, there's quite a few fun cartoons for kids on Netflix still. I don't think every cartoon has to be an orgy of violence to be good, but it doesn't hurt. There's lots of cartoons where the animation these days is top notch, and I love watching it. I love watching with my kids, talking about why they like certain cartoons, what they like about the animation styles of different cartoons, and sort of like getting their heads into it. But then all I have to do is pop on some Looney Tunes, especially anything with Sylvester, by the way, who is like the unsung Looney Tunes goat, in my opinion. You have Sylvester with Tweety, but of course in many other contexts as well. He especially the stuff with Hippity Hopper, the baby kangaroo, great stuff, full of just lots and lots of fun violence. So Popeye is just, to me, emblematic of a lost era, right? We want to protect our children at all costs from all forms of violence and anything that's gonna maybe even make them feel bad. And while that instinct is natural and at first blush seems very even noble and correct, I think it's in many ways doing a disservice to our kids, okay? Because kids' entertainment is meant for something. Like everything from the dawn of humanity all the way up until the 20th century, kids' entertainment was all about violence, right? Let's look at fairy tales. Oh my gosh, of course. We look at fairy tales filled with violence. Wolves want to eat children. Cannibal witches, monsters and ghosts, and everything that you could to scare a kid. Because the world was a scary place. And it still is. In many ways, it's scarier than it ever was. And our kids are less prepared than ever before by the time they get out of school, because they've been so sheltered and protected. Now, I'm not going to come out as pro-bullying, but I will say that when we went into this era of zero tolerance for any kind of bullying, for any kind of physical altercations on the playground, or even teasing, the intent is noble. We remember being teased as a kid and it didn't feel good. And so we want to spare our children that, right? Well, I mean, if they come out into the world and they've never had to deal with a bully because they've been completely protected and shielded from that by their family and their school, then when they get into the real world, they're going to be in for a big surprise, because the world is full of bullies, right? Whether it's in the workplace, just in your everyday life, online, or anywhere else. Kids got to deal with bullies, and they don't get any kind of preparation. I can see my wife looking at me right now being like, Dan, what, you're pro-bullying now? What's going on? Well, no, bullying is not good. However, like anything, it's a double-edged sword, right? Iron sharpens iron, and these kids, they sharpen each other on the playground, whether it's through insults or wrestling or whatever. These are the way they're testing their ability to interact, and frankly, when we stifle that and we tell the kids to be quiet, be calm, be nice, and even the entertainment that they watch has to be like, very calming and nice, right? Nothing that's going to excite them too much, nothing that's going to like lead them to role play as something that's not just quiet and friendly and happy. We're just losing a vital part of childhood. And I say, Popeye, where art thou? Right? Bring back Popeye. And maybe not even, you don't have to modernize him for a 20th century. I think they tried that with like Popeye Jr. and this and that. They would try to put him in the present day. You got to take him back to the 20s. And I say, just go watch the old Popeye cartoons. Do yourself a favor. You can find them on YouTube. You can find them online. Many, many, many of them, like I said, are public domain. And the character of Popeye himself goes into the public domain this year. So that means we can now take at least the original form of Popeye, the one that was introduced in 1925, and we can use that character and his name and his likeness. Now, would behoove you, would-be public domain creators out there, to look into exactly when certain elements of the Popeye character were introduced, because like if he didn't eat spinach in 1925, then you probably can't have him eating spinach yet. But it wasn't that long before the Popeye that we know well became like the Popeye. So in the matter of a couple of years, Popeye, as we know and love him, is fair game. And I can't wait. I want to see Popeye cartoons, maybe for adults, maybe for kids again. But take that character and take that donation to the public domain and make it into something that everybody can enjoy again. I think that would be great. That's my wish for 2025. Who knows, maybe I'll even write something. I've been dabbling in writing comics and stuff lately. I might even bring some of my poetry to this form pretty soon. I've been, for some reason, getting stricken by the poetry bug. I've written a couple recently, but I digress. If you like this video, hey, click thumbs up. If you don't, click thumbs down, but give me a comment. Let me know what I could do better, right? Do you like Popeye? Do you miss him? Do you think Popeye has a place in the 21st century like I do? Let me know and let's talk about it. I will be back extremely soon to talk about something extremely random. So thanks for tuning in and indulging me in this, because this is about as freeing as it gets. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.